I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's News Update. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the, quote, close cooperation between the Obama administration and the Israeli government, particularly with regard to Syria. The Prime Minister made the remarks on Monday during a meeting with a bipartisan delegation of United States congressmen, led by Republican Representative Rob Wittman of Virginia, who in turn reaffirmed the U.S. support for Israel.
Very close cooperation on all things, including on developing matters in Syria. Very close coordination between our two governments. And I think this is important for the stability of the region, for the security of Israel, and it's much appreciated.
Concern has been growing in Israel over the threat from Syria, in particular over weapons making their way into the hands of the Hezbollah. As you may have seen on IBA News, there are unconfirmed reports that the Israeli Air Force struck a truck loaded with weapons heading towards the terrorist group along the Syria-Lebanese border on Wednesday, after warning Hezbollah against acquiring weapons from the Syrian regime. Again, the reports of the airstrike, which were filed by the Associated Press and Reuters based on unnamed sources, have not been confirmed by the IDF or by the Israeli government. Israel chose not to participate in the periodic review held by the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva on Tuesday. Israel Foreign Ministry spokesman Yigal Palmor told the Times of Israel on Sunday, "We are under an ongoing policy of suspension of all our contacts with the Human Rights Council in Geneva and all its branches after their sequence of systematically anti-Israel moves which have come to contradict the mission statement of the organizations and sheer common sense." Israel had severed ties with the UNHRC in March over the group's planned fact-finding mission to investigate the settlements in the West Bank. Both Israel and the United States have voiced strong criticism in the past of the UNHRC for their bias and disproportionate focus towards Israel. The review has now been postponed by the Council until November. Jewish organizations voiced their support of President Obama's recent immigration reform proposals, which included providing a path to citizenship for immigrants, and reaffirmed their own commitment to work with Congress and the president to see them through. Jewish Council for Public Affairs Chair Larry Gold said the proposals strengthened the country, adding that the bipartisan cooperation behind them could mean the start of a new era. Barry Curtis Lusher and Abe Foxman, the national chair and national director, respectively, of the Anti-Defamation League, said they hoped for a civilized debate on immigration reform that will, quote, honor America's heritage as an inclusive, compassionate nation of immigrants that values the diversity of its people. Nancy Kaufman, CEO of the National Council of Jewish Women, welcomed the proposals as well, saying they would end the second-class status of undocumented immigrants. B'nai B'rith echoed the sentiment and said they'll continue to advocate for a constructive outcome to the legislative process. Richard Fulton, Director of National and Legislative Affairs for the American Jewish Committee, said immigration was a significant factor in strengthening the U.S. economy as well as its democratic pluralism. Mark Hetfield, interim president and CEO of the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, also praised the proposals, expressing his concern for providing safe haven to the persecuted. Associate Director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, Barbara Weinstein, noted that the Jewish tradition commands us to welcome the stranger. This responsibility, she said, inspires us to work to fix our broken immigration system in a manner befitting our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants. And finally today, cartoonist Gerald Scarfe, whose drawing of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu sparked outrage, has now apologized for the cartoon appearing on the same day as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Scarfe's cartoon, which ran in this past Sunday's London Sunday Times, showed the Prime Minister building a wall on top of the bodies of Palestinians and using their blood as cement. Many in the Jewish community and beyond took great offense at the drawing, saying it was reminiscent of classic anti-Semitic accusations of blood libels against Jews. Scarfe said he is not an anti-Semite and that his cartoon was directed as a, quote, criticism of Netanyahu and not of the Jewish people. There was no slight whatsoever, he said, intended against them. He did, however, apologize for what he says was the unfortunate timing of the publication, saying he was, quote, stupidly, completely unaware that the cartoon would appear on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And that's Shalom TV's News Update. I'm Teisha Bader.